Hello, I'm Shadow Soul Dwell, and welcome to another one of my top 10 lists. And today I'm going to be covering the top 10 most pleasant game surprises. I'm doing this list because I'm hoping you've had the same experience as me, where you find a game that you think might be alright, you know nothing about, and it turns out to be a great piece of work. So, this is onto my list, my top 10 most pleasant game surprises. Cue the intro. Number 10, Dying Light. Now I've picked this one to start off my list simply because I know these people are ones responsible for making Dead Island, and it was a game that I tried more than once to get into, but I just couldn't get into it. So when I saw Dying Light footage come out, I thought it looked really good, but knowing it was made by the same people along the same genre, I was quite skeptical. But I took a chance on it when it came out and picked it up a couple of days after its release, and well, I was more pleasantly surprised than I actually thought I could be by it. I really got into it and found it a very addictive game. So I had to give them a good thumbs up for recreating the games as itself and what they did before, and really pushing it to the next level. Number 9, The Sims. Well, this one's in quite simple terms. It was a game about living lives, and it doesn't sound very interesting. It doesn't sound very fun when it's just said in its basics. But as any of you know that probably played it, once you start doing it, it's very, very addictive, and you really cannot stop yourself from playing it over and over. So that's the number 9 for the list. Number 8, Unreal Tournament. Now this one I have to pick because it's the first game that really reached out into that multiplayer market for first person shooters. Although games like Doom and Quake had done it before, I think Unreal Tournament was the real first one that picked up that real cult following and really gave that bigger range of weaponry that let you just blast the crap out of all your mates. So it was a pleasant surprise when it came along, and it really drew me into that genre of gameplay. Number 7, Black and White. Now the PC game Black and White, I have to put in here, is a god simulation. I knew nothing about it before I got it. I simply saw a video one day, about 10 seconds long, of gameplay, and I thought I'd give it a try, and now it's one of my favourite games of all time. So I had to put it in as a pleasant surprise because it just popped out of nowhere. I don't think I've played another game like it really ever since, and I wish they'd do another follow-up to it that would work the same way as the original. Although the second Black and White game was quite good, yeah, I think it lost some of the magic the first one had from it really. Number 6. Well, this one shouldn't be much of a surprise to people who actually follow the page and see my name. Fallout 3. Simply because the original Fallout games were overhead type games that were done by Black Isle. They were good games in themselves and they had to play as a child, but Fallout 3 put it into the third person and first person shooting perspective, and Bethesda did a great job of transferring it over. It's now amassed a giant cult following in the games industry, and well, there's not a bad thing I can say about Fallout 3 at the end of the day. As a shooter, it's fantastic. As an adventure game and a sandbox game, it's fantastic. Open realming, the graphics for the time, absolutely over the top. Just, I still play that game to this day, and it's God knows how old now. Number 5, another Bethesda title here, Doom, the 2016 edition. Simply because I was a large fan of the Doom games when I was a child, absolutely loved everything about them, and then I found Doom 2 wasn't too bad. Doom 3 lost it for me. I just couldn't get into it. I thought they lost everything that made the game good in the first place. So when they brought out the Bethesda version, 2016, going back to that good old grit basics of just blasting and mauling your way through the enemies, it's really brought it back to where it should be, so that had to be in there. Number 4, Shadow of Mordor. And the reason I picked this one in particular is because I was skeptical before I got this game because it looked good, but I had the feeling it wouldn't play as good as it looked. I found once I got it, of course, if you actually haven't played this yourself, you'll see the gameplay itself is fantastic in every way. I was worried it was going to get a little repetitive at times, but it just kept entertaining all the way through, and well, had to be done. I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings games that they did bring out on the PlayStation 2, which followed the film storylines, but for this as a self-standing game in between the two sets of stories, it was amazing to play. Number 3. Now this is one that I've actually done a different video on if you look through my videos. Final Fantasy 15. Now there's been a lot of brilliant Final Fantasy games, and I know there's a lot of people that will jump up to say that Final Fantasy 7 would be their most pleasant surprise out of the list because it was the first port into 3D and it amassed such a following again. I'm sorry, I know I keep using that, but at the end of the day, Final Fantasy 15 was a pleasant surprise to me because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, and Final Fantasy 12, 13 really ruined it for me. I think they damaged a lot of the franchise, what they had inside it, pardon me there. But they really damaged a lot of what was made that game fantastic. They made it very linear. The online games just didn't do anything for me either. So when Final Fantasy 15 came out, it was a lot more towards the original roots of the Final Fantasy games that I was absolutely overjoyed. If you want to hear more on that, just check out my other video, the Final Fantasy 15 review that I did, and let me know what you think on there. Number 2, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now again, this is another one for the same reason. I might be a little biased here. Assassin's Creed, for me, is one of my favourite game series of all time. Since the very first one that I got that wasn't so popular, I fell in love with this series, and when they poured it over to Assassin's Creed 2, I fell in love with it all over again. It was amazing what they did with it. The game has constantly developed. If it's not your thing, I can understand how people fall out with it, but for me, it always kept gripping me. And then Assassin's Creed Unity came along. The very first current gen game they brought out. I was really excited for it, and when it came out, it was so disappointing as a game. It just hurt. So when Assassin's Creed Syndicate got brought out, I took a chance on it. I brought the Count and Cross Special Edition, so I got my statue with it as well, and I fell in love with it straight away. They really brought it back to where it should be. It's one of the most pleasant surprises I've had in games for a while, because to have one of my favourite game series brought back to the way it should be in the first place was amazing. Number 1, Goldeneye 64. Now obviously this is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest game on this series. Now the reason I had to pick Goldeneye 64 was simply it's the first person shooter game I ever had. It came with my Nintendo 64 when it first came out. And quite frankly, I don't think I've ever replicated that feeling with a game again, of just being in shock and awe of how fantastic a game is and how enjoyable it is. I think this game stole part of my childhood, but I'm very grateful it did, because it's just everything about this game was amazing to me. And well, if you haven't played it, even though it's an old game, I'd suggest getting on it just to get that nice feel of what games used to really be like. Anyway, that's my top 10 most pleasant surprising games. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your pleasant surprises were in games, and give me any ideas if you want for other lists you've got coming. See you out there.